thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and get started. It's about 1 minute to 4. Thank you all for coming. It's an honor to welcome everyone. My name is Brian Brown. I serve as the Government Affairs Chair for the Northeast Johnson County Chamber of Commerce. And I would love to thank you all for being here today, as I will be your moderator for today's event. Our official timekeeper is the CEO and President, Deb Settle, of the Northeast Johnson County Chamber of Commerce. So really quick, some things to explain as to how this format's going to take place. First and foremost, you're not allowed to post negative things on me on social media. We've had questions. We're going to have 5 questions that we prepared beforehand that are going to be important to the constituents of the Northeast Johnson County Chamber of Commerce. The candidates did not receive the questions beforehand, so they'll be answering these questions. In addition to that, there will be no questions or follow-up questions from the audience. However, we have requested if candidates would like to stay and interface with you all and talk to you afterwards. We do have the ability to have the space so they can interact with you after this event. This event is currently being videotaped. It will be uploaded on the website, votejoco.com, so vote yourselves and the candidates. Once that's uploaded, feel free to go to this website and you'll be able to share it with neighbors, friends, constituents that weren't able to make this, that you feel this is a good information for them to have moving forward. At this time, I'd like to introduce our candidates for the contested races for Prairie City Council. For Ward 1, we have Mr. Cole Robinson. Ward 2, Ron Nelson. Running Ward 3, Shelby Bartelt. Bartelt. I had to catch myself because you're like, don't do this. Thank you, Ms. Bartelt. Candidate for Ward 4, Mason Vallette. Candidate for Ward 5, Betsy Lawrence. And then wrapping up Ward 6, Mr. Jim Sellers. So the format for today, we'll have individuals that will have 2 minutes to give you an opening statement, tell you why they're running, why they feel qualified, what their passion is. We will go into the question and answer portion, where we will start with one ward, work our way down. Then we'll move wards and shift a little, start with that ward, work our way down. At the end of that, we will then move into our closing phase, where they will then wrap up and give you any and all information as to why they feel they would be the candidate of choice for this race. So, with all that, at this time, we will hear the opening remarks from each candidate, starting with Mr. Cole Robinson, Ward 1.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you to the Northeast Johnson County Chamber. A couple of years ago, I served in the Northeast Johnson County Chamber leadership program and really enjoyed that opportunity to get to know more of our small businesses. I think it's a really important role that the Chamber plays in Prairie Village and Northeast Johnson County. As Mr. Brown said, my name is Cole Robinson. I'm the Ward 1 incumbent running for re-election. I was first elected in 2021. It's an honor to serve the community that I grew up in. I'm a 3rd generation Prairie Village resident. I am married to my wife Danielle, and I have 4 kids that we're very excited. The youngest is now starting in kindergarten at Prairie, so we have a sophomore at East, 7th grade at Indian Hills, and then a 1st grade and kindergartner at Prairie. So I get regularly asked why I'm doing this, and even though my kids do put a lot on my plate and my wife's plate, I do feel both the example being set by running and serving in local government is very important, and also I'm deeply invested in their future if they choose to live in Prairie Village, like my family has done for the last 3 generations. I've worked hard on the council to be transparent. I think with my Ward 1 colleague Terry O'Toole and I are the only council members who've had 3 ward meetings in the past 2 years. We've worked to convene our ward through very difficult times. Not always the easiest conversation, but it is important to show up, not just to rooms or with groups that agree with you, but also to talk to people who disagree with you and sometimes quite strongly. I also have a citywide newsletter that I write. I send out once or twice a month. If you haven't found that newsletter yet, and you're interested in Prairie Village politics, which everyone in this room certainly qualifies, I would encourage you to sign up for my newsletter. I talk about all kinds of things. Try not to send too many, but I do think it's important. I also am fairly active, not as much as other council members, but I am active on social media. So I think those things are important. I think being in the room today is important. And I do think it needs to be noted, probably will be noted repeatedly, that only half of the candidates running for city council this year are in the room.
Thank you very much, Mr. Robinson. We will now hear the opening comments from Mr. Ron Nelson. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I'm Ron Nelson. I'm running for Ward 2. I have been living in Prairie Village since 1983, so however long that is, I've lost track. So I've seen a lot in that time. I am a divorce lawyer dealing primarily with conflict child custody cases, which some people say, and which I use as one of those qualifications for my position and position on council. It's not because there's so much controversy and conflict, it's because in the position of councilman, you need to be able to look at things objectively, determine it aside from emotion, aside from theatrics or whatever else, determine what is best for the constituents, what's best for the city, and what is best going forward. In the position as a divorce lawyer, as a family law attorney, I rely on experts. I rely on people who know more than me. I rely on people who have been able to analyze the situation in different ways. And that's what I try to do on city council, is look at what the experts have recommended, what the expert analysis says, rather than what people may think because of their own individual situation or what they heard from some friend of a friend on Facebook. This is my first contested election, and so I look forward to everybody's vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nelson. For everybody, I just learned how to count yesterday. It's 43 years that you've lived. Right. Now now for the opening comments from Ms. Bartelt.
Thank you. I'm Shelby Bartelt. I want to thank the Chamber and everyone who is present today or watching at home. Your involvement and presence here is incredibly important. I'm very proud to be running to represent Ward 3 in this council election. On a personal note, I'm a mom of 3, a residential mortgage lender, and like so many of you, I care deeply about Prairie Village and the community that we are building for the next generation. Before you make up your mind about what's best for the city, I'd invite you to just imagine a Prairie Village that stays true to its neighborhood charm while also making room for families and seniors to thrive. Imagine city services housed in safe, efficient facilities that don't saddle taxpayers with unnecessary cost. That's why my top priorities are clear. I want to ensure that we are being fiscally responsible as we plan for the future, making thoughtful decisions for future generations, those who are currently in our city and those who hope to be able to afford to stay here. I also think it's important to keep our neighborhoods safe, walkable, and community-driven. But most of all, I am committed to being an independent thinker who listens first and leads with integrity. At the end of the day, this is about protecting what we all love about this neighborhood and planning wisely for the future, and that is what I hope to bring to Ward 3 constituents.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bartelt. We'll now hear the opening remarks from Mr. Vallette.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everyone coming out today. I'm Nathan Vallette. I'm running in Ward 4. I've never done this before, so excuse me if I misspeak. I'm a father of 3 children in the public school system here locally, and my wife is a teacher there as well. And so I am fully ingrained, and we are fully ingrained in our community, and have been for a while. And what I love about Prairie Village is the fact that we have tree-lined streets. We can walk to the park. We can walk to Corinth Square. We can get a dinner. We can have some fun, get some ice cream, and we can go back home, right? And so this small community feel in a major metropolitan area is really something that keeps us here, and really something that we really appreciate. Professionally, I currently work in municipal finance, and so I typically fund construction projects throughout the country, and so I am fully aware of bond issuances, construction projects, the contracts relating to them. That's what I do on my day-to-day job. I used to work for a publicly traded real estate investment trust company as well. So when it comes to businesses, occupancy, making sure that people are going and driven to your businesses locally is also something that I've had to deal with in my past professional life, and it's extremely important to our city. When over 25% of our revenue comes from sales taxes from businesses, I think it's a major thing that we need to continue to keep a focus on as a city. And I think that all of us that are up here sitting here today are showing that we support finding ways to have businesses thrive in our community. I'm not running with an outside agenda. I'm running to be an independent voice. I've been talking with neighbors. I've been hitting the streets for several months. I'm looking to make sure that our residents and local businesses are at the center of every decision that I make. I think that together we can make our city the thriving community that we continue to be proud of for today and the next generation of residents, including my kids. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vallette. At this time, we'll now hear the opening remarks from Betsy Lawrence.
I am Betsy Lawrence. I am a candidate in Ward 5, and I'm just curious because I see some familiar faces out there, but how many Ward 5 residents do we have here today? Okay, great. I see some faces I haven't seen before, so thank you for being here. And thank you to everybody that brought a towel to donate to Prosperity. It's a great local charity that provides training and grooming to be a groomer for underserved community. And if you're going to the forum tomorrow night, I would encourage you to bring a pre-K book that we can donate to Operation Breakthrough. So as I said, I am a new candidate. I have not run for office before either. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself, I guess, and my family. So my husband and I have lived in Prairie Village for about 15 years. We have 2 daughters. One of our daughters actually just bought a house in Prairie Village with her fiance, so we're now even further invested in the community that we really feel like we have benefited from tremendously, and in large part because it's a community that truly values the community, values the streets, the services, the community events that we have, and all of those things that make Prairie Village a great place, and most importantly, our neighbors. And so we are truly invested in that and want to keep it going that way. My professional career I spent as a lawyer. I'm a certified mediator. I'm currently an adjunct professor at the KU School of Law, and I think I have, as a mom, as a business executive, and as a professional, a number of skills that can serve our community well. And I feel like I have the time and the commitment at this point in my life to give back to the community that has given so much to my family and myself.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lawrence. And finally, we'll hear the opening comments from Mr. Jim Sellers, representing Ward 6.
Brian, thank you, Deb. Thank you, everyone in the audience and looking on video. Thanks for spending some time with us. I'm Jim Sellers. I'm running in Ward 6. And I'm running because after a career in corporate America, it's time to give back to my community. I grew up in Fairway, went to school at Prairie and Indian Hills. When I was 13, my father became superintendent of Wentworth Military Academy in Lexington, Missouri. So I spent my teenage years learning discipline and self-reliance and leadership, which was fantastic training for my subsequent career in corporate America. 4 decades in corporate America, working for Procter & Gamble, FedEx, and Coca-Cola, among others. I've lived all over the country. So I appreciate what it is that we have that's special and unique, and the high quality of life that we have in Prairie Village, and I'm running to protect that, to be able to give back to that community, and because I want to be involved at the point where real people get real services from their government. I think some of the things that would lead you to consider voting for me as a candidate, my experience in business, dealing with large budgets, building high-performing teams, commitment. I'm all in for this. This is not a sideline for me. I'm going to be dedicated to this. And finally, independent. I'm not following anyone's agenda. None of us, including me, are up here as a slate. I deal in facts. I think for myself, and I'm committed to hearing from Ward 6 residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sellers. Before we get on to the question and answer part of our program, I think it's very obvious that all of our candidates here are very passionate about Prairie Village. So regardless of how the election turns out, it looks like we'll have very, very passionate individuals being able to represent you through this next election cycle. So with that, Mr. Nelson, I'm going to start with you with question 1. What do you believe is the most important skill or competency that distinguishes you from your opponent in this race?
I will say that I have not investigated my opponent's skills or anything like that. I'm running on my own. I'm not running against my opponent. But similar to what I said in my opening statement, I rely on experts. I rely on staff. I rely on people to do the hard work because they have the expertise in those specific areas. We as a governing body send that out to our staff. Our staff then chooses different experts in order to do those things. That's their job. Our job is simply to come up with ideas, come up with proposals, and then analyze the information that we get back, facts, and then make determinations between presentations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the fact that you identified just focusing on governance versus getting into operations is what you feel is very important. Thank you. Ms. Bartelt, same question to you. What do you feel differentiates you most from the individual that you're running on this against?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think this is such a great question. I, as a residential mortgage lender, bring a unique capability, particularly as it relates to financing and housing, which I know is a continued concern for many of our residents. How can we have individuals and families afford to stay in Prairie Village, those that want to retire here, as well as new families that want to join our community? I know that is a continued thought that a lot of individuals have as I'm speaking to them at the doors. In addition to that, I do feel that as a mom of 3 young children, I am really in the thick of it, and I bring that unique perspective. I can handle a temper tantrum quite well, and am able to hear residents. I think it's really important to be able to hear. So much of what we have arrived at is what I feel is a lack of individuals feeling listened to, and so I want to bring that maternal voice to be able to hear concerns so that all individuals, regardless of our opinions on specific matters, feel that they are heard.
Thank you, Ms. Bartelt. So what I heard there is we need to pull your children under effectiveness. Mr. Vallette, same question.
Sure.
What distinguishes you from your individual running against?
It's a great question. I wish I knew more about my opponent, to be honest with you. I guess what I would say is what I focused on myself is being pretty hands-on in the community. Besides volunteering with the school that my entire family is pretty much at every day. I'm on their PTA, I'm coaching soccer, I'm doing things in the school and outside of the school with our children throughout our community, right? We also are proud members of the Prairie Village pool system, which we will continue to bankroll until we're dead. And hopefully they'll learn to swim on their own here soon. But outside of just being in the community and talking with folks and participating actively, I'd say, I've got a background, something I didn't mention earlier. I used to run a residence hall in college, and so if you think people bickering over one thing or the other in our later lives is tough, try doing that in college years with roommates who can't get along because their boyfriends hate each other, or girlfriends or whatever. We have all sorts of issues. But I bring that up because I had 24/7, 7 days a week conflict and mediation training and resolution that I had to deal with, emergency response, everything you can name of, and that really prepared me for a strong professional career. And I do think that distinguishes me in a city right now where people can't seem to get along. I think I can help bring some calm to them. So
I think that's great. Thank you very much, sir. Question to you, Ms. Lawrence. What do you feel distinguishes you most from the individual that you're running against this one?
So I think actually I have a lot in common. We have a lot in common. I mean, we're both former business executives. We're both longtime residents of Prairie Village, and I'm sure that we both care very much about Prairie Village. So I think the thing that really distinguishes me, or a couple things, is my leadership style and my independence. So from a leadership style perspective, I am very collaborative and inclusive. I really seek to try to bring people together. I'm a very good listener. I'm very diligent in terms of when an issue is presented with me, sort of dig into the facts and really make sure that I have a comprehensive understanding before making those decisions, certainly including various stakeholders. An example of that is, after I decided to run for office, I on my own reached out and made an invitation to every single person, every one of our elected officials, from the mayor to every single city council person, and asked them to meet with me. so that I can begin to forge those working relationships that I'm gonna need in order to be a good advocate for Ward 5. And that isn't just something I did, that is sort of my style. Then with respect to independence, again, you've heard it from other candidates, but I'm not running on a slate. I have my own voice. I am simply a community-minded neighbor who, as I said before during my opening, really has benefited tremendously from Prairie Village, and I feel like I have a lot to offer the city in terms of giving back. So I will be open-minded. Every issue that comes before the council, I will give it a fresh set of eyes. I will ask the hard questions, and I will dig in.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lewis. Mr. Sellers, question to you. What distinguishes you most from the individual you're running against?
Well, I think that I have to hit on the question of independence. And I have to say that after deciding to get involved in the community at this level, that as I began to learn about the degree to which there is a division and disinformation, I found that very troubling. The fact that we're up here today and none of our opponents are up here today, I think speaks for itself. That aside, in corporate America, when we're faced with decisions, people who have done their homework come together in a room, armed with facts. They agree on a set of facts as a basis to evaluate options, the cost benefit of those options, and then align on an action and a path forward. They do not, once having made a decision, seek to undercut each other or cast doubt and questions on a particular course of action. That we pull together and we make things happen.
I appreciate that. Having a foundation to understand what's the source of truth and then building around structure and process to get to an outcome. So thank you, sir. Mr. Robinson, how you doing over there? Same question to you, sir. What do you feel distinguishes you most from your candidate in this race in Ward 1, sir?
I appreciate the question out of the gate. It's a little bit difficult for me to answer. I filed for re-election early in the spring, and my opponent filed sometime after. I've never met him. He's never reached out. I've never seen him in a city council meeting. So everything I know about my opponent is anecdotal or from the limited information I can find on the internet. But by what I can tell, he's a lot like me. He's a young dad, which I think is great. I think we need more representation from younger people in our local government. And he has young kids, which shows a commitment and investment to the future of the community. But when we talk about what sets us apart, we have to show up. I mean, these are unprecedentedly difficult times for local government. It's not going to get any easier anytime soon. I mean, we're kidding ourselves if we think that after this election everything's going to go back to normal. I do hope that happens, and I will continue working to do that. But it's most likely going to continue to be a difficult period for local government and other forms of government. And there is a public duty to step up even when it's difficult. So to continue contrasting, I have a clear record of doing the work, of preparing for council. I've chaired the finance committee this past year. As I said before, I've hosted ward meetings with my Ward 1 colleague. I have public-facing newsletters and social media, in addition to very deep roots in this community. And those are the types of things I believe very strongly that residents deserve from their city councilors.
Thank you very much, Mr. Robinson. That concludes question number 1. We'll go ahead and start with question number 2. Ms. Bartelt. Managing infrastructure is very challenging, especially when there's significant aging involved. What is your position regarding the future state of Prairie Village City Hall?
That's a great question. It's one that I know is on every resident's mind. I continue to hear questions about it at the door. We have yard signs, of course, all over the city regarding it. And what I would say is that at the heart of the municipal complex discussion is striking the right balance between being fiscally responsible and spending appropriately and having safe, efficient facilities for our community. I will firmly and strongly say I believe the current plan does exactly that. This was a plan that was reviewed and studied over 4 years. There were over 18 plans reviewed as part of that process that included resident feedback. I am a strong proponent of supporting our public staff, and having personally toured both the facilities of our police station and City Hall, I can see the needs that have arisen and how we need to address those to continue to support our public services that our residents enjoy. In addition to that, I would also point back to what is available from our city directly. Any resident that has questions, and I continue to hear that at the door, I always want to point back to the city and what information is available. I think as a council member, that's incredibly important. We are all hoping to serve our city, and it's important that we communicate that information directly to our residents so that they're receiving it correctly.
Mr. Vallette, same question. What is your position regarding the future state of Center City Music Complex?
Yeah, I think that the city, over a 3 to 4 year span, has analyzed, as Shelby said, I believe it was 18 project types to make this happen. The fact that they were able to come up with a financial package that doesn't increase your property taxes, but uses existing revenue streams to make it work, I think that's pretty good government. And so from that standpoint, I support the project. As somebody who's the first to file for this office right away in January, one of the first things I did was I toured the municipal facilities, the current facilities, as well as the police station, met with the chief there, as well as Wes, the city administrator, and there is a need here. And you know, modern facilities tend to translate to safer, more efficient services, and they tend to translate to more pride amongst the people who work there and the community that they serve. I see that when I help fund schools, for instance, around the country, versus if they're in oftentimes a church, if they're starting out, if they're an alternative school, if they have their own school building, outcomes tend to increase. There's a lot that can be said about how a new, efficient building that will save us even in utility costs for the next 60 years can benefit a community. And so I'm supportive of the project. And I do think that instead of kicking the can and having to come back to this conversation in 15 years, it'll be important to set us up for, you know, our children to maybe have to decide, do we improve upon this when they're grown up? So I'm a full support.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vallette. Ms. Robinson, question is to you. What is your position on the current municipal complex?
Ms. Lawrence, which
Lawrence,
is
sorry.
fine, that's okay. Multi-syllable. So, as I said, I'm not currently on council, right? So I didn't spend the last 4 years either on the planning committee or on council studying the 18 or however many various proposals, right? What I have done though is gone through the, 350-page document or whatever it is that's on the city's website. I've toured the facility a couple times, both the police facility, the city hall facility. I met with the project leader really for a couple hours to say, hey, walk me through sort of this timeline, right? So when I sort of think back, I still honestly didn't come to a conclusion about what of the projects would I have voted to say that's the one we should proceed with. But what I did take away from that is I'm very comfortable that the process was very disciplined and was very sound, right? The project that was chosen was voted on by the city council, who are our elected representatives, by a 9-2 margin. That is a mandate, right? And these are people who studied it. I have nothing but respect for every member of our city council and our mayor who gives their volunteer time, right, to serve us. And so like I said, I probably would have chosen a project that was more modest and maybe was more, didn't cost quite as much. But something has to be done, there's no doubt about it, and I absolutely oppose efforts to in some way try to undo what the city council has done after all of those years of study.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lawrence. And just to let you all know, she said she had a very independent voice and wouldn't be shy about speaking up. So we just witnessed an exercise. So thank you very much, Ms. Lawrence. Mr. Sellers, the question is to you.
So, you know, I think one thing that gets lost in this discussion is why we even need to be considering a new facility. All of us toured the facility and met with city staff. The fact is that a preponderance of the construction is built to residential codes, is made of wood, is therefore a fire risk, is insufficiently sprinkled, has a plumbing system that after 50 years is becoming to come under stress, an electrical system that is overloaded and is subject to arc flash incidents, is built to pre-9/11 security. So when we talk about the need for a new city hall, wrapped up in that is the safety and security of our city employees. There's no mechanism, should there be a municipal court hearing that goes awry and the plaintiff goes crazy, that the staff and the judge can be locked down. So let me echo my support, as my colleague said, but remind residents why we're here and why that need exists.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sellers. We appreciate your comments. Mr. Robinson, same question for you.
Thank you. One of the first things I did after I was elected in 2021 was tour the police department with then Byron Roberson. And I hadn't really heard much about the facility. It was built in 1996. I had really no additional information about what it looked like inside, so it was very insightful. He kind of insisted, hey, why don't we go take a look at this building? Have you taken a tour? And I was like, no, I haven't. I was really frustrated by the end of that tour. We added a mental health co-responder sometime late in the middle of last decade. It's a county program where a mental health expert embeds with our police officers when they have a call, if there's a mental health situation. Our mental health co-responder was working out of an equipment closet, an interior equipment closet in that building. We had converted an interview room that used to be for interviews, and we had 4 patrol officers working at different stations in that room. In another office, we had 5 officers jammed into a room. And I want to note that this happened because the council in 1996 at the 11th hour reduced the scope of the new police station. And since then, we've had things like the internet, we've added patrol units, we added a K-9 unit a year ago. The K-9 unit now is in that window of storage closet, by the way. So that's just the police department. This project, I was proud to be part of 9 of 11 councilors that voted in support, including 2 candidates that were part of the Prairie Village United slate 2 years ago. And I really do hope that if folks don't see the wisdom of the project or are opposing it, take some solace in the fact that this was a broad consensus to move this project forward. The police department will expand into City Hall at Space City Hall, and we're really stuck with the decision of what do we do with City Hall, because we do need to expand our police department and we need to do it right away.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nelson.
Yes, the other candidates have mentioned many of the reasons that I support what council has recommended as the plan. There were 18 plans that we looked at in order to determine what was the best of those plans, what was the most efficient, what was the most effective, what was the most cost effective. Certainly we could have spent more in order to get better facilities, but we as a council decided that we would hold the line at not more than $30 million. And that we would fit everything within that. We looked at different proposals of using the space of the police department and City Hall and just using that space. That was woefully inadequate. We looked at building a different building and using space. The Mission Road Bible Church came available, which was just perfect because it opened up a lot of other possibilities. Getting back to what I said in my opening again, we rely on experts. We need to rely on facts, not what a friend of a friend on Facebook says they think about the situation. I've gone through Citizens Academy touring the situation through the Northeast Johnson County Leadership Program. Again, that all informs what to do, what not to do, and what to look at in government.
I appreciate that. Informed decision-making when in governance is very, very impactful when leaders actually have data to be able to make informed decisions, so thank you. Moving on to our next question. This is going to be one that, if you are all elected, you will be in office when this occurs. We have this thing coming to Kansas City called the World Cup. That could probably, potentially, provide a huge economic injection, not just for Kansas City, but for the whole greater Kansas City region. How will you work with stakeholders Mr. Vallette, I'm gonna look at you first. How will you work with stakeholders to understand the favorable economic impact that could have for Prairie Village?
Yeah, sure, thank you. Obviously, sales tax and use tax for our local businesses, it's gonna be, hopefully for them, a driver economically, and something that really helps drive the business forward. I think the job of a council person will be to help support the local businesses in their efforts to drive demand from the metropolitan center to Prairie Village, to Johnson County. Obviously, hotels, all those things will hopefully be filled up in the surrounding area, but we'll still want to try to drive traffic to Prairie Village. I think it'll be important to be communicating when it gets closer, quite frequently with the county, with stakeholders in KC-Mo as to how we can all help each other through the process. If demand is really as they say it's going to be in terms of ticket sales and tourism, then we all need to be prepared. I think the other thing is, I've heard this as somebody from South Dakota originally. They have this thing called the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, where 1 million bikers every year come to a town of like 30,000. And besides making our friend drive us in his mom's van to it every year, it's huge, but it's overwhelming, right? And a big thing about it is you have to manage. You have to make sure that it's safe. You have to make sure that you can manage resources, but at the same time, there's a lot of people who want to rent out their houses. They want to find ways to make money off of it. And so I think there's going to be some economic opportunities for the city, but we're going to have to figure out a way to do that in a safe way that makes sense for everyone in the city as well as our residents.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lawrence.
So I think Prairie Village has a lot of things going for us to help us, attract folks. I mean, our public works department is fantastic. We've got a great infrastructure. So making sure that, there's no obvious projects that would impede that, and I'm sure that they're all over that. So and again, we have the limited ability in terms of, hotels and stuff like that, but I think we need to find ways and partner with our business community, both at Corinth, at Meadowbrook, at Prairie Village Shops, to ensure that we are doing events that will attract those visitors to Prairie Village, and we can showcase what a great place it is, but making sure that we host some of those events. They'll have to be super close partnership. I don't know that I necessarily think the city, and I'm happy to talk about this. I haven't really thought through whether the city should be hosting something in particular, but I think the whole goal should be for the city to support our business community to attract those folks there, and of course, as Nathan pointed out, the real importance of the sales tax revenues that we can help to defer some of the budgetary constraints that we rely heavily on our property taxes right now. So I think it's a great opportunity if we handle it properly.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lawrence. Mr. Sellers.
Classic marketing issue. Segment, target, and position. Number one, what do businesses feel that their unique value proposition is that would pull attendees in? Segment the market of attendees to understand, of those people visiting, where the match between the business's unique value proposition, their location, which is a very key driver of demand, and then finally positioning, that blended value proposition that we have in order to be able to pull those people in. So, applying some classic marketing strategies to develop a plan, a push-pull approach where we push awareness of Prairie Village and the value proposition our collective businesses represent, and then pull attendees in to consume those services, which is probably going to be the tricky part. I mean, logistically, devil is always in the details. Issues like parking, transportation, time of day, there's a myriad of issues.
Thank you very much, sir. And this is one of those things that you're not hearing a lot about, but obviously we don't have these discussions, they creep up on us really fast. So thank you very much for you all's responses. Mr. Wilkinson, I'll do the same thing to you, sir.
Yeah, not entirely sure what role Prairie Village will play in helping host the World Cup in the Kansas City metro area. You know, we have one hotel in the city. I have heard some very exciting rumors about what that hotel may have during the World Cup, but for now, as far as guests and housing, that hotel is really our main source. We did ban short-term rentals last year, so if you're looking to rent housing in Prairie Village on a short-term basis, it needs to be at least 30 days, which I would imagine would limit quite a few interested guests in coming to Prairie Village during the World Cup. Also, Overland Park is investing over $30 million in their Clock Tower Landing project, which is where the old farmers market is going to be. I do know that they're going to be hosting a lot of large parties. So just trying to understand, Prairie Village is probably going to play more of a regional support role when the World Cup comes. That's not to say that we don't have some exciting things we can do. Ron and I were proud to support industrial revenue bonds for the First Washington. They own the village shops. They're doing a very renovation just outside here on the Macy's building. And we were excited to announce, my colleague Terry O'Toole's on the Planning Commission was excited to announce that Big Grove Brewing from Iowa will be opening a microbrewery. And they're hoping to have that done by the World Cup. So that will be one of hopefully many local offerings that we can provide for guests at the World Cup. And I look forward to playing the role. I know we probably still are waiting more information about what our adjacent cities' plans are.
Awesome, thank you, sir. Mr. Nelson, same question.
Yes, Prairie Village has a lot of great restaurants, a lot of restaurants that will be attracting a lot of people. World-class restaurants, top 10, top 100 restaurants that are very attractive to people, as well as the Inn at Meadowbrook and some other places. We really haven't started planning anything, but it's really about supporting the businesses and doing that. As Cole indicated, we did support industrial revenue bonds for the village, for the shopping village, in order to renovate the former Macy's building. And the hen house is going in there. We don't know what's going into the old hen house space yet, but that's a possibility. And it's really just what do businesses need that the city can provide, that is what we look at doing.
This is a great question, and as others have echoed, we're still a ways away, and so I know that intense planning has not begun yet, but obviously want to echo a lot of the statements in supporting our local businesses. You'll catch me most mornings at French Market having a London fog, so I know that there's a lot that we can do to support the many amazing restaurants and eateries and other businesses that we have within the village, the shops, Corinth, and in Meadowbrook. I also want to just point out, as Cole mentioned, the ban on short-term rentals. That is something that I have been getting a lot of questions from when I'm speaking with residents at the door. A few that have brought up the World Cup have asked about that and if there's any potential on any adjustments or a short-term lift. And so obviously I'm not on council, so I'm not going to answer that, but I do think that is an important component and question that needs to be addressed as we approach World Cup.
Thank you very much, ma'am. So then we'll start question number 4. Ms. Lawrence, the question will be starting with you. As Mr. Robinson kind of indicated from earlier, there's been a lot of good development that's occurred in Prairie Village recently. Can you please describe when you believe is an appropriate opportunity for the city to utilize CIDs, IRBs, or TIP financing to be able to incentivize economic development, because those tools actually exist in your economic development funds?
So I will say I generally have some concerns with TIFs. That said, I do think Meadowbrook is sort of a shining example of a development that can effectively utilize all of those things that you talked about, right? And so I think where you've got a developer who is willing to invest in the community, as the developer at Meadowbrook was, and make it a win-win-win, right? So that it's not just the community giving to the business community, but it is a win for everybody. I think that is tremendous success. And so I think it just comes down to evaluating each of those tools, the specific project, and evaluating the good faith and the interests of the developer, right? Are they looking to just put something in their pocket, or are they looking to do something that's gonna benefit the community as a whole? And I think honestly, Prairie Village has done a pretty great job of managing that at this point. So I don't have any specific changes, but I think every development project and every type of incentive sort of stands on its own and has to be looked with the bottom line ultimately to how is it best going to benefit the community, right? That's where the focus needs to be.
Thank you. Mr. Sellers.
So, you know, I would wonder where there are opportunities in Prairie Village right now that, you know, these kind of financing tools may be appropriate. And I simply may be overlooking some, but, you know, again, as Betsy said, Meadowbrook is a shining example of you know, a very successful project. I do know that data that I have looked at nationally indicates that the benefits of TIFs tend to accrue to the development side and less the government side of the house. So all of that is to say it is very project specific, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I'm certainly open.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sellers. Mr. Bartelt, you may have some experience with this, sir.
Mostly working with others, but I think incentivized economic development, when done right, it can give a taxpayer a seat at the table around the future of the city. And so what does it look like to do that right? I do think trying to follow incentivized development where it's a model you pay as you go. So you work together with somebody who wants to make a substantial investment in the community, try to incentivize the direction that would go, and then as they move the project forward, the taxpayer would be contributing to that. The developer would be unlocking it. So maybe you avoid issues like we see in our neighbor Mission right now, where we still have the Gateway project that's been sitting there for a long time, or previously in Marion with Kmart, the site that's not vacant for a very long time. I think it's important to exercise a lot of clear, strong judgment on these projects. The Meadowbrook TIF was, again, as everyone said, a very clear example of a home run of a development. The bonds were moved off the city's books and obligations years ago, and we'll finish repayment years in advance, which is very exciting. In 2027, we begin to see the revenues from Meadowbrook come on to the city's books. But behind all of these incentivized economic development projects, there just needs to be strong ROI and a strong business case. We saw the partnership with the YMCA, the community center, not necessarily an incentivized projects like we talked about with TIFs or IRBs, but it was something where it didn't quite make economic sense for people, for the taxpayer in particular. So, you know, I've already used that framework to guide whether or not I support certain projects, and you can expect that from me to continue lucky enough to read that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bartelt. Mr. Nelson, you as well, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm generally opposed to giving money away to corporations that own land, own businesses, unless there is a clear benefit for the city, for the residents of the city, for the community. One of the things that was mentioned by Cole earlier was the IRB for the village. And we see great benefits coming out of that. We have the opportunity to take away local sales tax, state sales tax, as well as other sales tax combined in order to fund or help fund the purchase of materials for that. There was a previous proposal that was considered while I was on council that we rejected. And that was with Corinth, where there was a proposal that the city fund a parking garage. That didn't make any sense to most or all of us on council, and so we didn't do that. So what we need to do is look at the individual project rather than just say we are for something or against something merely because of what it is.
Thank you very much, sir. Ms. Bartelt.
Thank you. I think this is a great question, and I wish there was a clear-cut answer for every situation, and I just frankly don't think that there is. While Meadowbrook was and continues to be an incredible success, I think with the limited land that we have in Prairie Village, it's very important to be cognizant, particularly when we're talking about developments, those that live here and those who want to come into the community and bring businesses. So I'm leaning with Ron here just to say that I think it's really important to individually look at every development project, who is benefiting and ensuring that it is to the benefit of our residents. And this is something I think is really important, particularly in each of our wards, because we serve different wards. Each of us have different development areas that are available. And so first and foremost for me would be absolutely ensuring that I am representing Ward 3 and hearing residents' voices about those concerns within our own ward.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Mr. Vallette, final response, and let me clarify, you do not get to say ditto, so.
I was thinking it actually, would have been a bad joke, that's what I'm looking at. Look, I think a lot of people up here made some really good points. I like the fact that we have all of those tools in our toolkit. And so, depending on what the future presents to our city, we need to be able to evaluate every individual opportunity. Only 10% of our city is commercial, so we are a little bit hamstrung. There's only a couple commercial zones, or I would say plats of land that could eventually down the road, maybe they want to be converted into something else, who knows? So we'll have those tools to look at that time, depending on who comes in and if they want to do what. If it makes sense to the everyday resident in our city, we'll strongly consider those options. I think we need to be always thinking about the long-term health of our community, but as well as the residents that live there. But we should always be collaborating and communicating with these developers who present these opportunities to us. Have they done these before? Have they been successful in the municipalities that they've done them? As I've seen in my line of work, when iron is hot in a certain sector, that all these developers go to that sector and they can present themselves very nicely as having all this management of construction experience. It doesn't mean they've actually done this in a similar city like Prairie Village. And so we just need to make sure that whoever we are getting into business with in these circumstances, that they can deliver what really will be valued to our taxpayers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vallette. We are heading now into our final question. Mr. Sellers, we're going to start with you, sir. Looking forward, please provide 3 critical initiatives that you believe will move the city of Prairie Village forward in the next 4 years. Please give details regarding the initiative, and if funding is required, please identify those funding sources.
That is an easy one. You know, I was just wondering on the tip question that I wasn't aware that either the Chiefs or the Royals were looking to move into Prairie Village.
How do you think that development will go? Go ahead, sir.
Well, I think working with businesses that are interested in expanding into Prairie Village or opening up in Prairie Village, the hen house facility, for example, the role of city council should be to act as a good faith arbiter to the extent that it can and should to maximize the return on investment that residents get from whatever business might move in there. So the initiative would be evaluating and assisting businesses that want to start up or move into Prairie Village, and then pulling the strings and applying the tools that are available to cities to assist those businesses. Continuing, I think one important area that perhaps, not necessarily economic development, but has to do with the challenge of rising property taxes. It's a function of increased appraisal values, which creates real wealth for citizens, but at the same time comes at a cost. Specific actions such as doubling the amount of money that's open to individuals from a tax rebate program would be an example.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sellers. Appreciate it. Mr. Robinson, question to you. Sure. What 3 critical initiatives do you believe will move Prairie Village forward in the next 4 years? Funding is required for those.
And is this a 90-second or 2? 90-second, you want me to go now? Okay. The already passed municipal campus project is the most important thing that has come across the council since I've been there. It's something that alleviates critical needs for the city. It's an infrastructure priority for our city, and in the long run, it saves tens of millions of dollars. It was already passed. It should already be bonded. We should be evaluating construction projects right now, but it's being held up by the litigation from individual. So that continues to be the biggest priority for our city. The second priority I continue to have, and the election sometimes forces more communication with residents, is around our tax and budget process. How do we measure whether or not we cut the mill levy, which we've done twice in the last 4 years, versus keeping it flat or reducing it less than we perhaps could? Residents need to understand how their tax bill is composed. It's something that probably needs to be continued to be repeated over and over, that 84% of your property taxes do not go to Prairie Village. Nearly 75% of your property taxes of all spending goes to your police department and your public works. I think as we have these conversations at the doorstep across the city and in our town halls, residents, I think once they learn about how the inner mechanics of the city work, they're overwhelmingly satisfied. And they also, it helps explain why the city runs so well. So continuing to facilitate that information, and then I would just say the third priority, and it's maybe not the third in the order, but is to heal the city. We've had an enormous amount of division in the past 2.5 to 3 years. And I'll just say, maybe on a personal note, I take a lot of hope from the relationship I've had with my new council member elected in 2023, was endorsed and elected by Prairie Village United. We have formed a wonderful working relationship over the past 2+ years, or about 2 years. And I think I've learned a lot about working with different viewpoints, trying to find common ground. And I think that can be a model for the council moving forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Robinson, appreciate that. Mr. Nelson?
Can you restate the question?
Sure. Looking for what 3 strategic initiatives do you think would be important to move this, the city of Prairie Village forward, and if funding is required for some of those items, please identify the source.
On city council, it is not, I believe, so much us bringing forward our ideas as supporting those ideas that come to us. For example, as Paula said, main thing that is on our plate at this point is the municipal campus and making sure that goes forward. But there are also opportunities for us to support business in Prairie Village. There are a few properties that are available, and something is going to happen within the next few years. We don't know what, we don't know when. I suspect over on State Line that commercial area is probably, something's going to happen there soon. I suspect that something is going to happen with regard to 75th and Blunder sometime soon. That has been in near 10, 15-year litigation. And I think that's probably coming to an end sometime within the next few years. So that really is not initiatives by the council, but supporting initiatives by others who come to us and make suggestions.
Awesome. Would it be fair to call them priorities? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Nelson. Ms. Bartelt?
Yes.
What do you believe would be 3 priorities for you that you believe would advance the city of Prairie Village moving forward?
Yes, absolutely. One of my #1 priorities is rebuilding community trust. I think this is vitally important. It is paramount to who I am as a person, and I've been able to experience that firsthand within my own community that is intergenerational. We have families that have raised children for 30 years who come out to take pictures on our children's first day of school, and that is the community that I love and I wish every resident got to experience. So some of the initiatives that I would personally love to bring back are finding ways that we can get back to that community element. I think it's a time in our nation where everyone is looking for that. You know, who has a new baby in our ward and how can we serve them? And so I really think bringing the servant heart back to city council and our broader community is incredibly important. Other initiatives I think are continuing smart and sustainable projects. I've seen that, and we've all seen that success with our compost program. That was one that a lot of residents weren't sure about, and yet we've seen that continued success. And so I think giving opportunities that continue to have resident feedback and are really a test, if you will, and we've seen that success continuing. Lastly, I would say collaboration. I think that's incredibly important. I think that initiative is going to take a lot of work, but I am committed to it, and I think when you asked about that, I would say that I'm here, and I will be at the Johnson County Post Forum tomorrow, and I will be at the forum on October 9th, because I think that's vitally important, so.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bartelt. Mr. Vallette, what 3 critical initiatives do you believe will move the city of Prairie Village forward in the next 4
Yeah, I mean, I think by nature, you have to say the municipal project. I mean, it's the largest expenditure, I think, I could be saying this wrong in our city's history, but it's such an important project for our city. So even if it gets funded before the election, we're gonna have to manage that. There's operational issues, there's construction issues that could come up. There's a lot of things behind the scenes in a multi-year project that could affect a lot of people in our city. So I think that's a big thing. It's not just getting to the finish line and racing to do so. I think there's a lot of in between that needs to be managed appropriately. You know, I think it was said that all the good answers were already taken, I'll tell you that. With property tax management or just budgeting, some people brought that up as well. I mean, we live in a city that there's not gonna be vast increases to commercial business opportunities. So we need to take those when we can get them. So what it means is in the future, we're gonna have an increase in reliance on property taxes, unless we hit retail and we drive people to businesses and we increase our revenue from that side. And so I think that that's gonna be a big piece, as well as maybe staggering our property tax rebate program, because life doesn't happen before just, you know, January 31st every year. It could happen in the summer and people need help throughout the year. And lastly, because I saw the sign this time, I'd say adjustments in communication. I think there needs to be, as Shelby said, more pushing versus pulling. So rather than relying on residents to find information, we need to find better ways to give them information. And not my information, I mean the city's information, the facts, the figures, and what we're actually talking about. So I will hear, I'm sorry.
No, appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Last response, last question. Ms. Lawrence.
So I will just receive that football from Nathan, because one of the initiatives I was gonna talk about, and it sort of has its, I don't know, it kind of weaves through a number of the themes that have been going on, is I really do think, you know, I hear people say that there's a lack of transparency, but when I dig into all of the information that is available on the city's website, it's almost like there's too much information, and maybe, or so much information that sometimes it's not digestible. And so this may sound very simple, but I think it will help us maybe move in a different direction if we're all operating from the same set of facts. So maybe an initiative almost like what I would call sort of a learning series, where we do short, concise, video, easily deliverable education pieces for citizens, right? So that when we face these tough issues, when we're talking about, you know, the pressure that we're gonna have on property taxes and spending going up, you know, from cost pressures and that kind of stuff, at least we are all coming to that conversation as educated citizens so that we can try to find some commonality when we are having those difficult conversations. Was that a stop?
No, that was 30.
Oh, that was 30, okay. So one other initiative, and again, this is just kind of getting back to basic stuff, not some grand things, but what I have seen, and maybe it's just Ward 5 where we have older residents, we have a lot of residents that are still living in their homes, but are maybe isolated from the broader community and in not present company, and in some of our apartments. And so I've actually heard this from people. I would like the city to be more intentional around sort of maybe partnering with Johnson County. There's some great senior programs, but I think there's some opportunity there that I would like to explore an initiative around.
Thank you very much. So ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our question and answer portion of this forum. We will now allow each candidate 2 minutes to do their closing remarks before we adjourn today. At this time, we will now shift over to Ward 1 to hear from Mr. Cole Robbins.
Thank you to the Chamber today for hosting this event. I did forget a priority, just because it will be settled on election day, but it would be not to abandon our government on November 4th, which is a question that every Prairie Village resident will find on their ballot. The language, I'll do my best to reiterate it, is shall the city of Prairie Village Canvas abandon its mayor, council, form of government? I encourage residents to vote no on abandoning government and opening the door to uncertainty and chaos. We know the business community in particular, if there's one thing it abhors, it is uncertainty, and I think abandoning our government would create a lot of uncertainty for Prairie Village. I also don't want to continue to dwell on the negative, but I just find it disqualifyingly unacceptable that half the candidates running to represent thousands of Prairie Village residents cannot come to the Northeast Johnson County Chambers Forum. I do not understand. There is no valid excuse for it. I find it wholly unacceptable and again disqualifying that a slate of candidates running as a slate decided not to come today. And I think residents need to absolutely understand what is happening, and they will be and as far as I understand, they will not be there tomorrow for Johnson County Coast Forum either. So, it is what it is. It's our job as residents and as candidates to try to talk to as many voters as possible ahead of the November election so that residents understand what is happening. I think one of the weaknesses of council that I've observed in my 4 years is that simply for a long time, residents took the work of their local government not for granted, but they took it as everything had always worked. They didn't have to plug in. Council was admittedly behind the communication game as we handled different initiatives over the past 4 years, communicating how we are doing things, why we are doing things, across what timeline residents can expect us to work through different things. We've worked really hard to change that, several of us on council, via newsletters, again, town halls, social media posts. It's a very, very difficult project. I have a lot of faith up here in these other 5 candidates that they will help us tackle that resident focused communication moving forward. And I look forward to the opportunity to serve another 4 years.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rogers. We'll now hear the closing statement from Mr. Ron Nelson.
We all moved to Prairie Village for a reason, because of the housing, because of the people, because of the community. I strive to continue that community, not divide, to keep us interlocked and the walkable streets, the security that we receive from our police department, people walking down the street saying hi to you, feeding your dogs, watering the dogs. A community instead of those other places around the county, around the state, around the United States that are separated and apart. My commitment, and the reason that I'm on council, is to enforce and enhance that community. It is what makes Prairie Village the attractive place it is. We cannot short ourselves by cutting things. I've been to different communities that don't fund their parks, that don't fund various other things that are critically important in Prairie Village to that community, to that interconnection between all of us, and why we enjoy Prairie Village, why so many people invite other people to come and live in Prairie Village. And that is my commitment to continue that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nelson. You'll now hear the closing remarks from Ms. Shelby Bartelt.
Thank you. If I may, I would love to tell a story that is one of my favorite stories and things that I love about Prairie Village. We have an amazing public works department, and every May they host Touch a Truck. Now, if you have children or young grandchildren, it is the highlight in the Bartelt house. I now have 2 young boys, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and every year they look forward to this opportunity. I've also talked to many of our public works staff, and they look forward to it as well. For my son's birthday, he requested to have Touch a Truck at his birthday, and I remember thinking, how in the world would we do that? And I remember talking to our public works team and them bringing a dump truck on a Saturday on their off time to show up for my 3-year-old's birthday party. And I think that in all elements of what is Prairie Village, it's calling the chief of police and him inviting me to meet him that day just a few hours later. It is a community where we wave to each other driving by, where we encourage each other, and I am so incredibly, incredibly grateful to be a part of it. Raising 3 young children here has been the gift of my life, and I hope nothing more than throughout this process, if I have shown them how to show up, how to meet your neighbor, how to have conversations in discord, I will be incredibly proud. And so I would welcome the opportunity to serve Ward 3 in Prairie Village. I am firmly set and stand by. I don't have all of the answers. Frankly, there aren't a lot of great answers that everyone is going to agree on, but what I am committed to is listening to the residents. My cell phone and my email are on my website. Please don't hesitate. Reach out. I would love to meet you for a cup of coffee or take a phone call, even if we don't agree on everything. What I hope more than anything you can take away is that I am someone who cares deeply about each of you, every person in the room, every neighbor, and I would be honored for the opportunity to serve.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I don't know if you guys heard what I heard, but Touch a Truck truck and potentially a council person or else.
I think we could, make it a birthday party on a little revenue stream.
There we go. Thank you very much, Shelby. Well, now to the closing comments, Mr. Nathan Vallette.
All right, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you to the chamber. I think these conversations are extremely important. Business. I think it's important that we all talk to businesses. We all talk to local residents who might think about starting businesses about why Prairie Village would be a good place to do that. And so I think for all of us to sit up here and explain that and talk about it, I think is extremely important. I wish, as other people have said, that we could have heard some other ideas as well, because I think this is not only education for you guys as voters, it's education for us as candidates, because I've heard a lot of other candidates say some really interesting things today that I'm like, yeah, that's right. And don't take my answer next time. This is another thing I would say. But I'm committed to strengthening our city and our neighborhoods. Supporting local businesses is a big deal throughout this campaign, which again, I started really early, and I was really excited in January to file. This is the first time I've run for anything, and it's been an eye-opening experience. But I've got my donuts for my park event at Duck Donuts, which is in Corinth, which is in Ward 4, and my coffee practically sponsor is Hattie's, which is in Ward 4, Panera, and so. My card's from Hen House, and so it not only has given me a greater appreciation for the businesses in my ward, but it's also given me a platform to highlight them as well amongst the city, right? And so I want to continue that. I have the experience to deliver on big projects. I have the background to be, the professional background to be a solid member of the council, but what I would tell you is, because I'm not Mr. Politician, I've hit it so hard, my leg, I need probably knee surgery now from walking the streets. A conversation can help everything, and a cup of coffee is always on the table. If you have any questions for me, I always want to meet you where you're at and listen and give you my opinion on things. But my opinion doesn't matter, it's what your opinion is that I need to take in when I make decisions. So I know I've been told to stop, so I'm going to stop.
We'll now hear the closing remarks for this.
Well, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you for listening, and thank you all for hosting. I hope you've learned, those of you who haven't interacted with me before, I hope that you've learned something about me during this forum, and why I really do believe that I'm the best candidate to serve Ward 5. I have the experience, I have the skills, I have the commitment. But I think, as I said, and I think one of the questions, I really do think my leadership style will serve this city well. I'm not running on a single issue. There are going to be a host of things that come before city council and our city government that we can't even really anticipate right now, right, over the next 4 years. And so I think I will be a city council representative who has an open mind, who is curious, who does the hard work, and is engaged, and who also will engage the stakeholders and my fellow council people, so that we can find the best solutions for the city. And I would ask all of the Ward 5 residents to, as Nathan sort of said too, reach out to me. I would love to have a conversation with you, and I would like you to meet me where I would meet you, which is with an open mind, and not making assumptions about what somebody else told you who I might be, but find out for yourself who I am and what I stand for. So thanks again for everybody for coming, and I look forward to the other forums where I get to meet more of our Ward 5 residents.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, we have the candidate for Ward 6, Mr. Jim Silvers.
So, I approach this with a lot of humility, and from the point of view of a student. I've been very successful over a career in business in a lot of different industries, but I've never embarked upon anything like this, and I'm reminded of that on a regular basis. But I know from the way that I have proven in the past that I'm a student, and that I pride myself on learning and on continuous improvement. And as poor as my response may have been to the question about what are the 3 economic initiatives and would they be funded or not, that made me think in a way that says, Jim, can you do better next time? And Brian, I will do better next time. But let's
Consider it a Kaizen event.
thank you. Yes, thank you. I also want to be clear that in Prairie Village, potholes aren't Republican or Democrat. The water supply and the Public Works Department doesn't lean left or right. The police department is not ideological. I'll work hard to be nonpartisan, to be collaborative, to keep the kind of dysfunction that often is characterized at the national level out of our city, because we're all in this together and we deserve the best.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our candidate forum that's been presented by the Northeast Johnson County Chamber for the benefit of those individuals that own and operate businesses that serve you all here in this wonderful community. In addition, I'd like to thank Colonial Church for also being very gracious hosting the event today, knowing that we have a large body of individuals. We want to say thank you to them for lending this space to us. It was very generous. In addition, we'd like to thank all of our candidates that show. Obviously, they all have day jobs, but I think to Mr. Robinson's comments, this was very intentional when they showed up here for you all to be able to allow you to make informed decisions. As a reminder, advanced voting in person starts on October 25th, and the general election is going to be on the 4th. This video will be uploaded to the website votejoco.com if you wish to go review it, share it with your friends, whatnot. And with that, we thank you all for your attendance today, for your gracious responses and sharing your thoughts, and for you all for staying as informed voters, understanding what these candidates' priorities are, and once again being able to understand how these individuals will potentially move the city of Prairie Village forward. So thank you very much for your time and have a wonderful